What is up, gang? This is the X-Team Featurette channel.
Welcome to another TGIX review video.
I'm Chris. This is my buddy Rob.
Movie and Toy Collector 13, part-time YouTuber.
Full-time Vincent Price enthusiast.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was sent for review this double feature of Dr. Phibes, and Dr. Phibes rises again from Kino Lorber. This is on a glorious Blu-ray disc, and 2 discs in this set. They look amazing, so I'm going to be reviewing these movies with Rob, because I need your help.
Big shout out to Kino for giving Vincent Price some attention, because they've been releasing a lot of his stuff. So yeah.
They really have, huh?
Yeah, and I hope they keep going, because Haunted Palace, Pit and the Pendulum, those are ones I want to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. So the first film's from 1971, the second's from 1972. Same director for both of them, Dr. Robert. Doctor. Everyone's a doctor in this movie.
Yeah.
So Robert Fust.
Yeah.
Fust is the, I think they say Fust is the director. So he directed both of these, and actually he has a commentary track on the first one on this set.
Oh wow.
So I'm not sure what the other releases of these films are like, but there's some great commentaries. I actually listened to all of them.
Oh.
So yeah, so I'll talk about that as it comes up. But you want to give a little plot synopsis? You want to just go through scene by scene, kind of?
Yeah, we'll try to avoid spoilers.
No spoilers.
So it starts out pretty. The first one starts out pretty quick. Like it gets right into it. Like
kind of. Well, after the organ.
Yeah, you got a little organ scene.
It starts out with like 12 minutes of like an
right.
organ solo.
Once you get through that, it goes right into the kill
and
stuff.
then
yeah.
It's like one after
right,
another.
Right.
Rapid fire.
But you don't really know what's going on until later on.
Yeah.
You don't know why he's doing what he's doing, but.
Yeah, so it kind of opens with like the very beginning. It sets up. Can we just talk about the set design on the first? I mean, really both of them, but the first one, you get introduced to really the organ, and it's supposed to be like this Art Deco type feel. Like it's supposed to take place in like the 1920s, I believe, or
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's supposed to take place in the 40s, because did they die in the 20s? It's supposed to be like the early 1900s that this takes place. So so it's got this real Art Deco feel. The organ, the first thing that we see is this organ, and it has these neon lights on it, and just this really beautiful set. And it's supposed to be Dr. Phibes' home. It's like this mansion.
Yeah, I'd say mansion, yep.
Yeah. And it's just, it's very, everything is so stylized and artistic, and it's like, that's what, the first like 12 minutes is like a solid introduction to like the set, because the set, I feel like, is a huge part of this film.
Oh yeah, like, some people probably would be bored with it, but it draws you in. Like, if you just chill and watch it, it'll draw you in.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like, and another thing that they do, and throughout the whole movie, there's like weird camera angles, and we get some of that immediately. Like remember that one camera angle where it's kind of like like the camera's like turned 90 degrees, and he's like playing the organ.
Right.
So you get like an intro to some of that like trippy camera work right off the bat. And then I think it kind of pans out when we see Dr. Phibes. What was the band called? The Clockwork Wizards.
Yeah.
It's like these. It's people.
Right.
It's supposed to be like a mechanical band, like animatronic.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like beating on the drums and playing an accordion or something weird. And we see that. So it's like this very eccentric type feel. And then we get introduced to, I mean, not really, but we see the, what was her name? Volnavia.
Right.
Yeah, like Volnavia.
Yeah.
So we see her, and she's assisting Dr. Phibes in his first like kill.
Right.
Whenever he's going to do with the bird cage.
Right. So all his kills are, what is it, biblical?
Yeah.
Or
like 10 biblical curses,
like
I guess.
yeah, the curses. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm interested in that. I mean,
yeah, it's really neat. And the first one kind of sets that up. So he drops in this bird cage through like a skylight of this doctor's house. We learn that it's a doctor. The bird cage, like they lift up the cover on it, and like all these bats come out whenever the doctor's asleep. The other thing, like the doctor's house was like decorated impeccably too. Like he had this Victorian wardrobe in it that after the doctor dies, he's like basically supposed to be shredded to death by these fruit bats, which are vegetarian. They will not shred your face, I believe, but that's what happened in this movie. So once he's dead, the inspectors come and we're introduced to Inspector Trout, which is probably my favorite character.
Oh, really?
Oh, I loved Inspector Trout. He was phenomenal. In the commentary with the director, he actually says something about using, like, he's like, we absolutely had to use this Victorian wardrobe that was on that set, like, because Trout goes in one end of it and comes out the other. So just kind of like making use of the set in that way. That was pretty cool. As they're investigating this death, they're like, oh, by the way, we're just at another doctor's house that was...
The bees. Yeah, yep.
And they're like, oh, that's kind of weird, 2 doctors.
Right.
Yeah. Because this guy's face was maimed, and so was the other one. He had a death of boils because the bees stung him to death. So Trout's kind of putting 2 and 2 together, like, we got 2 doctors dying in a very mysteriously kind of similar way.
Right. And they go through the 9 of these pretty quick because they got 9 curses to get through.
Yeah.
And it's, what, an hour and...
Yeah, it's like it's an hour and a half, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 94 minutes. There's a plague in here. The third death was the frog mask at the costume ball. And that was kind of like, that was really weird, honestly.
Right. Which that's probably, I think that's my favorite one, actually.
Yeah?
Just because I think it is so weird.
It was very bizarre.
Yeah.
It was like a really ornate frog mask.
Right.
And the guy's like talking to this person that he doesn't know who he is because Dr. Phibes is wearing like it's a costume ball.
And he's just like, oh, you got a mask? Why not? I'll put it on.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know who you are, but let me just secure this mask on my face. And, you know, we were just watching The Mask with Jim Carrey earlier because my kid loves it. And it's just like, what is this fixation with masks? And, like, the Goosebumps has the haunted mask or whatever. Like, there's this fixation with masks just not coming off your face. But this is, this supersedes both of those things, so that was kind of weird, but the mask just kept tightening and tightening.
Right, and I guess it just, I mean, you seen blood coming out at the very end, so I guess it was tightening.
You saw the little mechanism. It was like it was like a gear that kept tightening on his head.
Pretty good technology for back then.
Pretty good
to pull that off.
Yeah, and like pretty good technology was like a theme with Dr. Phibes.
Oh, yeah.
He was very like the Clockwork Wizards and all of his little creations.
Right.
You know, I guess because the idea was, when was it? When did they find the amulet? It was after the guy at the house.
Yeah,
the fourth death was the guy at the house.
Right.
And he was the one that was, he thought that he was home alone. He thought that his housekeeper was out for the night. So he was watching some girly films. He had this like hand crank film reel. And he's like watching this girl like dance around with some cobra or something on film.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then midway through, Volnavia just like pops out from behind the screen, and he's like, oh, my dream come true.
Yeah.
And she kind of like ties him to a chair. Like he's just like, he's like so into this like perving that that he's just not questioning the strange.
He was perfectly willing to just...
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm going to go with this. So then, Dr. Phibes was close behind her, and the way, how did they kill him? Like his blood.
They drained him of blood.
Yeah. So, in that one, he was in his house, so he dropped every single one of these killings, he was like leaving this amulet. And it was like, it looked like a rune or something. You could tell that it was like, that had writing on it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Phibes made a mistake and left the amulet there.
They were able to, from there, figure out kind of what was going on.
Yeah, like Trout found it and took it to the jeweler that made it.
Right.
And then the jeweler was like,
this is a set.
This is a set of 10.
I made 10 of these things, yeah.
Yeah, and then he also told him that it was biblical.
Right.
So, or that it was Hebrew. He was like, it's Hebrew, so he took it to a rabbi, and the rabbi's like, oh yeah, this coincides with one of the curses from the Bible. So, Trout's like, oh, there's going to be more killings. And he was correct.
What'd you think about after every kill when he had those wax busts set up and he torched their faces?
That was so cool. And at first I was kind of like, what is going on here? Like, it was like, is this some kind of a voodoo thing? But it just added to the ornate nature of this, and it added to just like the extravagance. Like, it was very Vincent Price to have that, I feel like.
Oh yeah. What was your favorite kill for the first movie?
I think the kill that like got me the most was the locust.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that one was the one that I was like, what the hell?
Right.
And that showed how crafty he was, because he was kind of stuck in, they thought that they had the building surrounded and secured.
Yep.
And, he was already in the building. Like, that was one thing that I loved, was how he is on top of it as Trout and the police were. He was always one step ahead of them.
Oh yeah.
Even whenever Trout was on scene, he couldn't prevent the deaths from happening. What was your favorite kill?
I think the frog.
The frog, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, that one, the locust one, like, I didn't know what was going on at first. I was like, what's he pouring down through there? At first I thought it was like acid.
Yeah.
Or something that was like going to slowly eat her face off or something.
Well, it was weird because they showed the part with the Brussels sprouts where he was like kind of picking and choosing which ones to use. Right. He was in a hospital, and she was like, basically the police had them surrounded. Like, they were on police watch because they knew that he would be coming for them, because I guess once he figured out who these doctors were, Trout made the connection. All of these doctors are connected to, what was his name? Dr. Vesalius.
Yes. They were all part of the team that performed surgery on his wife.
Yeah, so Dr. Vesalius is like, I worked on all these teams with all these doctors, but only one surgery had all of these people on it. And it was Victoria Phibes' surgery. She subsequently died under his knife. So, we're putting together the picture that this is like a revenge type killing. And throughout the movie, it's interesting because it's very, he's very much so a hopeless romantic. It's like his wife died in surgery, and then he kind of like, he was supposed to have died in a car crash. Right. And they don't really tell you for a while, and without spoiling anything, I wasn't really sure for a long time. Did he die in the car crash? Like, is he like a reanimated zombie? Right. Did he lie about dying in the car crash? Like, what's going on? I wasn't sure about that. Was he able to reanimate himself, and now he's trying to do the same thing for his wife? Like, until probably like the last act of the movie, I was kind of confused about that. This was my first time watching it. I know you've probably seen it a lot. Huh?
Yeah, this one I've seen quite a few.
Yeah, so that was something that was kind of confusing. The other thing that confused me was Volnavia, who is supposed to be like his assistant. She looks very, very much like Victoria. Right. Victoria you see laying there dead. Right. Or no, you don't see her laying there dead until like the end, but you see her pictures and stuff that he's always looking at and fawning over. Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were the same person. Like, is Volnavia Victoria reanimated?
That's like, so I kind of wish there was more, like, I want to know more about her. Yeah. Like, there's, like, how did he get, she helping him?
It was very ambiguous.
Like, yeah, like, because she doesn't speak.
She doesn't speak, and neither can he because of the accident.
Right.
He has like this little thing he puts up to his neck, and he speaks through like Victrola like speakers.
Right. That'll segue me right into my first fun fact.
Yeah.
There was actually talk of a third movie. It was going to be Bride of Dr. Phibes.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Corman had the idea for it, but it never ended up happening. So if they were thinking about a movie called Bride of Dr. Phibes, I mean, maybe Volnavia, were they thinking about something there? You don't know.
There's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. One little thing I thought was pretty cool was his car, how he had the, like just the images of him around it. So you couldn't, I mean, he didn't really want to show himself too much anyway, but
yeah,
it was just the drawn photos, or I think it was drawn, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a drawing,
like a portrait
because the window was down and then they rolled it up and
Right.
then you saw like
Right.
just like a drawing of the profile, like a silhouette of a guy. And the commentary with Justin Humphries. Okay, he's the author of the Dr. Phibes Companion. That was probably my favorite commentary on this set. I love the one with the director. So the commentary with Justin Humphries, though, he said on that one, he mentioned something about that scene, and he said that, the picture on the car window was almost like a like one of those little tin toy cars, or like the mechanical wind-up ones.
Right.
And he said that was just like adding to, and he said that it also added to like the artificial nature of Dr. Phibes. He had an artificial voice.
Right.
He had an artificial face.
Yep.
I will say the Kino, the title screen, whenever you pop the disc in, kind of spoils his face. Because, so something that you don't really, you don't really get it, kind of.
Yeah, even that kind of.
Kind of the cover art.
Yeah,
but they show you a very clear picture of what's under his face.
Wow.
On the title screen, and I didn't really think anything of it until I actually finished the movie, and then I was like, oh damn, they kind of spoiled it.
Yeah.
So he was talking about how like this whole synthetic, like artificial nature was him. Like his band is artificial, his voice, and just everything he does is like mechanical. So I was like, that's a pretty cool theme that to pick up on.
Right.
The other thing, because Volnavia is so ambiguous and stuff, it's like you don't really know if is she one of his mechanical, is she a mechanical girl? Is she like an improved upon version of the electric wizard, or whatever?
I never actually thought of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And they never really answer it.
Right.
And one of the weird things that they did in this movie was all of her she had her wardrobe was another just really big art piece. Like her wardrobe was art. And a lot of the time she was like a piece of the set, really, like, because she would just be sitting there, and because she was totally mute throughout the movie. She never talked.
Nope.
So she would just be sitting there and like moving her arms in like a really symbolic way, or she would be dancing with Dr. Phibes, which is absolutely hilarious because like Vincent Price is not a good dancer. And how weird is it that Vincent Price, who is known for his totally unique voice,
right? Yeah,
his voice was 100%.
It was all
like it was recorded.
Yeah, they had to make it seem like he's talking through some kind of device, in his throat. Plus, think about how, the whole movie, he had to keep making it look like his throat was moving.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
that had to be...
Can you imagine? That just shows how good of an actor he was.
Yeah.
Because he really did, look like he was using some device.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really cool.
And this movie was actually advertised and it was billed as his 100th movie, but it wasn't. It was only I think it's in the 80s somewhere, 86th movie, but they called it his 100th movie. I don't know why, but that's
kind of weird.
Yeah, that's another fun fact.
how I said like Trout was one of my favorites, Peter Jeffrey, and not just because he's like British, but he reminded me, like his police style reminded me a lot of a character from like Monty Python, like just the way he delivered his lines and stuff. And he was like, I feel like the biggest comedic element to this movie. And you know, this is a very, for a horror movie, technically, this is very bright.
Right. Yeah.
It's a very bright, vivid horror movie, and it's not that like horrific. You know, they do have like glimpses of like.
Right. I mean, you see blood, but
yeah,
it's nothing overly.
It's very lighthearted, honestly. For a horror movie, it's very lighthearted and honestly kind of fun.
Right.
It's very fun, I would say.
Like whenever I don't know what kill it was, but the rats in the plane. After the plane crashes, Vincent Price, he just does his little clap, like, you know?
And, like, Volnevia's playing the violin in the background, and it was just, it's just so, it's almost kitschy. Like, it's just, you know, that kind of mid-century modern type feel, and just, it's almost like a novelty movie. And I guess, since we're not going to spoil the end of the first one, I will say, though, it ends, there's a, I guess a coffin or a crypt or a tomb in the end. It's so weird how it's styled because it has like a mirrored ceiling.
Yeah, because when you first see it, I'm thinking, I thought, why is she standing up?
Yeah, why is she standing in a mirrored room? It happened to be like the mirror, like it closed and it was the top of a coffin or something. And it's like, well, that's kind of freaky there, Dr. Phibes. And then there was a telephone inside of it.
I didn't notice that.
There was a rotary telephone sitting next to her. There was like a little, like an enclave or something, like a little, like just a shelf inside of this coffin with a rotary telephone, a very ornate one.
Your observation skills are on par.
And they never really mentioned that. And I listened to the director's commentary. I'm like, I hope he mentions this phone, but he didn't. One thing he did mention was how how he completely changed the like the screenplay that he was given, and he changed it so much, and all of the set design being so modern, and the whole thing with the wax faces, all of that was 100% him. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing he did this movie because it is what it is because of him.
Did he say anything about? Because like they could have ended after one. Like they didn't set it up really for a sequel. Yeah,
he mentioned that, and he said that they didn't have any intention of making sequels. So, and it's kind of interesting because it came out the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like, and the end was kind of open-ended. It wasn't like they were setting it up for a sequel. It wasn't like an obvious cliffhanger. It could have ended with the first one.
Yeah, because like how he comes to be in the second movie, like it's a little crazy, like
like how are they gonna do this?
Yeah, it's like you can't, that doesn't work that way.
But Dr. Phibes makes it work,
right?
And I don't want to say that it's like a surreal movie, but I guess it kind of is. It like verges on surrealism a lot of the time, especially with Volnevia's like wardrobe cuts and stuff. I started to mention that before, like whenever the organ lifts and then like she'll be wearing one totally ornate, dress or whatever, or costume, and then 2 seconds later, she's wearing a totally different ornate. She didn't have time to change. No. And it's just like, there's so many weird switches like that in this movie, and it's like, and it's almost like suspending disbelief, but it's totally 100% on purpose, and I think they mentioned that a lot in the commentary, and I think that they called it, wrong footing the audience or something. I forget. The director, I guess, is known for that technique, just keeping things like kind of guessing. But yeah, it was really interesting.
One more actually, this is a morbid fun fact. So the drummer for, I think it's The Who, Keith Moon, I believe. So he died of a drug overdose. I'm not sure the year, but the Abominable Dr. Phibes was on TV when he died of a drug overdose Just a morbid fun fact.
That's really weird.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what he was watching when he...
I can imagine. Because
Right.
this is kind of trippy.
Yeah, see?
What
yeah.
the hell?
Right?
Wow. Yeah, that would be really strange. Should we dive on into Dr. Phibes Rises Again?
Yeah. So in like you mentioned how the first one's kind of light-hearted, and they come right out and say this is a British horror comedy.
Yes.
They say that.
Yeah.
And for me, despite it's Vincent Price, that's kind of a turn off for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, there wasn't that much really. I mean, it was comedy in it, but it wasn't like over the top stuff.
I will say there were multiple times in the second one that I laughed out loud.
Oh yeah.
I found it hilarious. And it's like the first one was amusing. There was definitely like comedic relief in the first one, but the second was just almost, and it wasn't like so bizarre that, you know, it was funny, but like I feel like they definitely took Inspector Trout and like the police. They made the police chief or whatever Trout's boss.
Right.
In the first one, he was almost scary and kind of like overbearing.
Right.
In the second one, he was just a bumbling fool.
Right.
You know? And
the first thing I thought of was Abbott and Costello with the Universal Monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That was very, very similar to that. Good call. But Trout had more than one. You remember the scene where they were in his office and he had the tomatoes like kind of in the windowsill ripening?
Yeah, yeah.
And just like random stuff. They like pick up a tomato and they're looking at it as they're talking about this case, and it's just like weird things like that.
Right.
I come back from leave, and the first thing I find on my desk is this. What's that then, sir? The Gloucester Squirt murder. The Gloucester Square murder. I can hardly read your writing, Mr. Sir. On arrival, I discovered the man's body surrounded by balls. Look here, sir. On the snooker table, sir. What? Oh, balls on the snooker table.
Was it 3 years or was it 3 years after?
It was 3 years, yeah.
He rises again after 3 years. Because the moon aligned with he calculated all this before he ever, ended the first movie. He had everything calculated to where at this certain time the moon would hit his crypt and things would activate and he would be brought back. So why he had to wait 3 years, I don't know.
Because the moon was doing that thing that I don't know why he chose to like do this 3 years before that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because he's taken her to, bring her back to life. Essentially, that's the thing of it. But the really interesting thing is like the set when he comes back, and then when he goes up to what was his house.
Yeah.
It's just his house is destroyed.
Yeah, they demolished it.
Right, and it was a mansion before, and I'm assuming I forget. It had to be like I'm sure it wasn't by itself.
Yeah.
But it just looked like Armageddon.
Yeah. He had this whole elaborate, like thing downstairs where his crypt was, and his organ went down there on this like lift system, like Phantom of the Opera or something. And whenever it lifted up, like whenever he came to the rubble and stuff, that was just like it almost reminded me of like a stage play.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
Just like how they styled it.
Right. So he found his safe, the papers that he was needing.
Yeah,
was
the
in there.
papyrus or whatever. That was like basically this whole thing is supposed to take place in Egypt.
Right.
Because they're trying to get to a pyramid because I guess while everybody was alive, he made a crypt, unbeknownst to anybody else in mankind, in Egypt, in a pyramid.
And it was a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? It took a lot of work. I'll just say it would have took a lot of work to make that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was it's like one of those things that's like, okay, this is suspending disbelief, but whatever. I'm just gonna watch it.
Right, like, I mean, it didn't keep my attention as much as the first. Like, I mean, I watch the first one, multiple times a year, but I
Yeah.
really don't watch the second one that much.
It's still good.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was the name of the doctor? Do you recall the doctor that was like his
Oh,
rival in this one? I keep wanting to say Bilderberg, but it's not
that's
that.
close. No, it doesn't say. You're close, though.
Who the hell played that guy? I don't even remember who played him. Does this say the name on top?
Oh, yeah, that's
Robert Quarry.
Yeah. And so it's funny, they also, Peter Cushing, they put his name on there, but he's in
he
there
has like
for...
a 3-second part.
He's the captain of the ship that takes him to Egypt.
Yeah. And that ship was like an interesting, like a really interesting scene because they had all of the luggage and all the...
Right, like the under or whatever.
Yeah, so like obviously he had to transport Victoria's body, so he had her in this like glass kind of crypt looking thing, but it was actually, it looked like a circus like car on like a train or something.
Right.
And he had the rest of the clockwork wizards inside of it. And at one point there was that doctor that was getting a little too curious about what she was, because there was just like a corpse standing there in front of a pane of glass, and he like
Right.
walks up to it, and then he presses a button and the clockwork wizards come to life. And it's just like they're sitting here like mechanically beating on their drums, and meanwhile she's still standing there dead.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
And I don't the kills I don't think were as... I don't remember the kills that well from the second one like I do the first one.
I watched this 3 times because I listened to both commentary tracks. I barely remember the kills, and I just watched it like yesterday.
Like, the one I remember is, I remember when he was distracting him when he had the big fan, and then he had that device that crushed the guy.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember right offhand.
Yeah. But, the kills weren't really, like, the biggest focus on this. It's like, in this one, it's like his love for his dead wife, and then, whatever the other guy's name was, and his love for his his living wife. He was trying to, like, give her eternal life or something, and they were trying to, like, go to this, the whole thing was they were trying to get to the river of life and basically get eternal life. It was a weird concept.
Yeah, there's a key involved.
This, like, coffin with, like, a trap door, and I'm gonna stash my wife's corpse in there.
Right.
Hide, like, why was he even needing to hide her? I don't get it.
Yeah, like,
But
I think they were definitely grasping to get through this.
they were just trying to find cool stuff to like make, like.
Oh, of course, since it was Egypt, there was a scorpion kill.
Yes,
scorpions.
Yeah. As soon as I saw the golden scorpion, I was like,
right.
This dude's gonna be stung by scorpions.
And that was clever the way he did it too. You know, he showed the guy, this is what you need to get out, and he put it in that thing. So he had to break it, and that's where the scorpions were. Yeah.
Which was very like that was very like Saw.
Right. Just like the frog. The
Yeah.
frog mask that you could...
Just like the frog mask, just like the end of the first one with the surgeon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things that really was like an homage to that.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other way around, like Saw is like an homage to that, like the
right,
like the tests and stuff like that.
Right. So finally, in the end of the second one, like the two come head to head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually got it's bothering me that I can't remember his name, but so the doctor, he's got Victoria's body, right? So he's trying to get her back, so he kidnaps this guy's wife. So they're trying to figure out how they're gonna do this, but he's got her in some kind of a trap down inside of another chamber inside this massive.
So he obviously constructed that like beforehand.
And
like, what?
So I was trying to that'll be a spoiler. I'm not gonna say that.
But it's just like, how did he? I don't know. He was just like throughout the entire both movies. You have to like think that he spent that entire 20 years like constructing every possible like trap, and it's really strange because like I didn't really think about that when I was watching it, but when did he construct that thing that he put the doctor's wife in?
Yeah, it's yeah.
I guess I don't really have like much else to say about the second. I will say I did enjoy. I like British comedy and I like horror comedies, so I really enjoyed this for that reason. There was a lot that was just so silly. I just cracked up. I wish I remember what the line was that that Trout said. They kept doing like fish jokes with this one. They kept calling him Pike.
Right, right.
You know.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, but
Yeah, that did stand out.
Yeah, just silly stuff like that.
So, I mean, the second one, I would say it's worth a watch just to, you know, I mean, you want to watch them both, but...
Do you think it's a good sequel? Or do you think it wasn't needed?
I don't think it was needed.
Yeah.
I think it should have, the way they ended it with the first one, I think they should have just let it go at that.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also like, I'm curious what they have in mind for the third one.
That's true.
So.
I feel like they kind of, I feel like the first one ended so abrupt. Although, you know, it ended abruptly and like didn't tie up the loose ends. But also, I feel like doing something so absurd was like almost just like disappearing and just, you know, kind of like vanishing into thin air was kind of normal for him.
Right.
So, I feel like that the way that they brought him back and the way that like this movie unfolded, I thought that it was a good sequel, but like, yeah, it wasn't really necessary, but I feel like they did it really well. And I feel like they took a lot of like the comedic stuff from the first one and kind of ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
The second one had better music though, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
It actually had, I forget the score, but it was a lot more focused on music, I think.
I think that's another fun fact. I believe, I don't know if it's the first or second film, but Vincent Price did a cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
And they took it out. I think he was actually performing it in the credits or something, but I think they cut it.
He sings it in the second one.
Okay.
As the credits come on, he's singing it, and I think that it, because the first one ends with the instrumental Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
I think that might have been at the first one. Maybe for some reason they cut his version from the first one. I don't know why, but yeah.
That's interesting, because yeah, he sings it in the second one, which is weird since he can't sing. He's using his Victorola hookup.
Right. So, you know, for Vincent Price fans, or, you know, well, mainly for Vincent Price fans, I mean, Abominable with Dr. Phibes is probably one of his most well-known movies, I would say. And, you know, pick it up, right? I mean, Kino. Like...
Even, like, just, like, British horror, you know? Like, I would say that it's, like, quintessential British horror, you know? Right. Having only seen it once, it has a very British feel.
Right.
It's very unique, I guess.
That's probably why Peter Cushing was in there.
Yeah, he had to get in there.
Yep.
His character was cool, though.
Yeah.
I wish that they would have put him in like a, you know, bigger role.
I like, cause see the DVD that I have, the old MGM release, it doesn't have his name up here. You know, it's only these two. So I was like, wait a minute. You know, when I first watched it, I was like, he's got to have a big role, and I was surprised he didn't. I was like, he's just got this little bit. As soon as I saw he was the captain of the ship, I was like, oh,
yeah,
you know, he won't be around much.
So, let me see the commentary tracks on here. I did watch all of them. There's 2 commentary tracks per film. So, the Abominable Dr. Phibes has the audio commentary with the director Robert Fust. That was pretty good. He was kind of like the typical old English guy. You know, he was just kind of mumbling and stammering, I should say. You know, kind of like that. searching for words, but at the same time, he did forget a lot about like the details of the film, but at the same time, the stuff that he remembered and everything, really interesting facts. Really a lot of good insight as to what happened and some of the choices he made. So, you know, as far as director commentary goes, it was a good one. The other, like I said, the Justin Humphries commentary was my favorite one. So much good information, so easy to listen to. Do you have the Dr. Phibes companion?
I don't.
I didn't know that that was a thing, but
No.
I'd be curious about that now because his commentary was really, really good. So I highly suggest that track. On the second, Dr. Phibes Rises Again, there was commentary with film historian Tim Lucas. Oh, so the first one, because Justin Humphries did the second commentary track on Dr. Phibes Rises Again. The first commentary track with film historian Tim Lucas, I did not like at all. I mean, it was good information, but it was just one of those tracks where it's like he had this written out and he's just reading something that has nothing to do with it was almost like an essay, you know, like a spoken essay. So and honestly, like, I don't mind that sometimes, but his voice just was kind of like maybe it's because I saw the movie like 3 times at that point. But yeah, I was just not really drawn into it. And other than that, there's a radio spot, TV spot, and theatrical trailers. So that's what we have as far as special features on this release. Have you seen any, or have you listened to any commentaries on this?
I'm very bad about that. Commentaries, like, it's very rare I get into those. I really should get into more stuff like that, but I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I dig them, so I don't know. But that's what we have. So yeah, same artwork on the inside as the slip, and then, like I said, there's 2 discs. So that's what we get with the Kino Lorber feature. So double feature. So that's just a really awesome entry to the ever-growing Vincent Price catalog that they have.
Keep it going, Kino.
Keep it up.
Yes, double feature, Haunted Palace and Pit and the Pendulum.
I'd get it.
Yes, for sure.
So, any other things you wanted to add?
One more fun fact. Let's end it with a fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you notice that the actress that played Volanavia was not the same from the first to the second?
I had to look it up because I was like, she looks kind of different, but I don't know. I didn't really pay attention.
So they wanted the same one, but she was pregnant.
Oh, really?
So that's why they had to get somebody else. Yeah.
That's kind of nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if it's because she was so far along or whatever, but for whatever reason, they chose to go with someone else because she was pregnant. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I learned on the commentary was that the first one, I don't know if that's why they made it a non-speaking part, but they said that the actress that did the first Volnavia or whatever, she was just a terrible speaker, I guess.
Huh.
So it was like, oh, it's perfect. So she didn't have to talk in this role.
Right.
So I wonder if, like, the second one, and they never really talk about that either, like, because, like, the first Volnavia kind of meets, like, a tragic end, and it's like, is the second Volnavia, like, supposed to be a different character altogether, or
right, like,
just one of those, like, surreal things that they don't really address.
Right.
So suspending your disbelief again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty cool.
There you go.
Well, Rob, I appreciate all of the insight and your Vincent Price knowledge.
It's always a blast joining you for the TGIX reviews anytime. Vincent Price, I'm here.
Well, thank you to Kino Lorber for sending this along for us, and thanks to you for checking this out. Check out Rob's channel too. Maybe you can peer pressure him into making something this year.
Part-time.
We will see you next time.
See you later.